So everybody arrived at the Survivor Series to get ready for the Survivor Series, and that is a stupid sentence. The two best parts for me were the pop that Paul Heyman got, because what world are we living in? Jimmy Uso was wearing a terrific hat. This is the stuff you tune in for. Also, hello my friends, I am now in my Chicago hotel. If you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure you go watch SmackDown Ups and Downs. But I am on a Progress/Defy US tour at the moment, defending my Progress Pro-ish Championship. As I am talking to you, I have my third defense tomorrow. If I win, I'll be 3-0. That means I'll be going after my dad Goldberg streak. Let's forget about that because we did just have the Survivor Series 2024. Let me tell you, my buddies, we've got a lot to talk about. Let's up those doubts. The first thing to do on this year's Survivor Series was play the game of, well, which WarGames will be first? Because, of course, one always starts the show, and one always ends the show. But given that we did have the bloodline in one, of course, it was the women that kicked things off. That did mean that it was Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Io Sky, Bayley, and Naomi taking on Nia Jax, Raquel Rodriguez, Liv Morgan, Candice LeRae, and of course, none other than Miss Money in the Bank, Tiffany Stratton. We got the WarGame noise to begin this, which is a little bit strange because it's an air raid siren. And then these are the commentators like, oh man, don't forget that Io Sky is this. And she's the queen of WarGames because she's been in all the WarGames and she's really good. Rhea had also updated her mask. This was so damn cool because, of course, some people talked about that after SmackDown. She looked like she was about to star in Masters of the Universe. It turned out Bayley wanted to start this match. Very interestingly, on the heel side, it was going to go to Nia Jax. Now, as ever, she used her power game, as Corey Graves went, oh, well, I think Bayley's just pleased to be here, like he was her dad. When Bayley took off some of her ring gear and started to whip Nia Jax, then you actually heard Bayley go, quick, grab it and hit me. So that's what Nia did. Listen, some people get so mad about this online, but you know me, I'm still the same OG, I'm a massive nerd. Sometimes I just like hearing and tasting the secret sauce. I think we then got some foreshadowing because it was Naomi who got in next and WhatCulture screamed, oh, she's Bayley's best friend. And yes, look, let's talk about the first half of this thing. It was a little bit chaotic. Some things didn't go to plan, and yes, Nia Jax hit some chair shots that were like popping somebody on the head. But I tell you, I would rather that than the death shots that we used to get. And also, these things are so hard to put together. When you watch it from start to finish, it was still pretty damn fun. What was totally mad is that every single person that did come out had to get a weapon, and we'll talk about that later, one of which was a toilet seat. I don't know how else to talk about this. Somebody within the world of kayfabe had gone to a toilet and removed the seat because they thought I can use it as a weapon. And then do you know what we did with the toilet seat? We did a stink face. I'm never going to be able to get that out of my brain. One day I'm going to be on my deathbed and I may remember this. How the hell am I going to fathom it? Candice was in there with two chairs and she actually did a springboard moonsault onto those chairs as Bayley was laying on it. But surely that hurt them both. When it was Bianca Belair's turn, she decided to go get a trash can. Now she totally knocked out Nia Jax with that and slammed the door right in LeRae's head. She had a fire extinguisher. She was just going crazy. Now we just need to rewind a little bit there. No, a fire extinguisher has never made that noise. I can't make a fire extinguisher sound effect, right? I'm not the guy from Police Academy. She also absolutely murdered Candice by throwing her into Tina the Turnbuckle when it was Tiffany Stratton's turn. Once again, she got a big old pop. She also got a trash can too, and this was when I was like, not everybody needs to get a weapon. And listen, it was great that a bin of rubbish was being put in the ring, so we all know Io Sky was coming, but I am just gonna give it a down. Because if you do something too much, it just becomes a little bit repetitive. And of course, if you're a nerd like me, and you watch all the shows, you remember last year's WarGames where we did the same thing. So it's just a little petty down, but sometimes I'm a little petty man. They all then smashed into each other when Sky did get the you can go. And actually, she's crazy too, because she had her own trash can that she had painted purple, and she had some kind of hook on her gear, and she instantly climbed to the top of the cage. This is why Io Sky is brilliant, and why WWE called this right. If you know what the fans want, just give it to them. Now, actually, Candice LeRae climbed up there and stopped her, and I think Io Sky was meant to give her a sunset flip from the top. Actually, glad that didn't go to plan. Somebody could have died. Raquel with the headband was next, and she full away slammed some people into the steel when Rhea Ripley got the go-ahead. This place went nuts. So I'm going to keep saying it until we do all understand this is why WWE books her in the way that they do, because it's working. That's the entire point. Why would you ignore it? I do have a mini down in there though, because I was so happy and so excited that Rhea was going to kill everyone. She got cut off instantly. I was like, oh man, I was such a sad panda. So that time my parents told me that they didn't love me. And ever since then, they said that they didn't mean it. But do you think I've forgotten it? No, I haven't. Once again, it's a teeny tiny down. Naomi then used the double rear view as everybody was on the floor when the toilet seat was back. Because I got a weird brain, I started to think, because of the rules and there's no DQ, could the toilet seat win the WarGames? Listen, the toilet seat didn't win the WarGames, and I'm going to be pondering on this for a long time. Blair also used her hair in that rhyme, so it must have been the right thing to do when finally Rhea Ripley leveled up her HP. She just went totally mad, and she finally got her hands on Liv Morgan. Well, she was going to because Liv had to get into the ring, but instead, Morgan just left. And I was like, where is she going? But she had gone to get a baseball bat, probably because she had a conversation with Sting, but it also ties into their past when it comes to injury. Actually, that time it was pretty good, because just as they were going to clash, it turned out all the bad guys had surrounded Ripley, and they beat her up. When you do those things, do you know what you were telling the audience? This person is a badass, and essentially Batman, and it's going to take multiple individuals to take him down. There were so many crimes here too, because they did hold her back, as Liv Morgan just bashed her with the baseball bat, and maybe I could have let that go, but then they handcuffed her to the top rope. Well, at least they had some handcuffs, and that's what they were going to do. Imagine you showed this footage to the jury, you're guilty, crime counter. Tiffany Stratton and Io Sky then climbed to different parts of the cage, because one, Io did indeed have that trash can, and for the second time, she put it over her head and did that moonsault, and let's not forget she can't see, so that's totally terrifying, and fair play to Tiffany as well, because she did a swanton off there, so I'm sorry, you have to give it an up. Too quickly in this game do we forget how dangerous this is. They deserve it all. The absolute perfect part that was after this, out of one of these bins, Tiffany Stratton actually had the Money in the Bank briefcase, and Liv Morgan was down, and Nia Jax was down, so all of a sudden we had the question, well, which person is she going to cash it in on? She took too long, which is when Io got obsessed with that fire extinguisher again, which again, that sounded like a cat who's about to scratch your face. I don't know, man. The fans were so into this, and they were so excited, and it would have been so interesting, given that we did have two separate WarGames matches. I think we kind of missed the peak here, and I'm sure that WWE has a much better plan, but as I'm talking to you, I don't know that. I gotta give it a down as well. Like, sometimes it's good to have things taken away from you. This time, I really think we should have swung and seen what happened. Nia Jax then gonna hit the Annihilator on Bayley through a table, but instead she looked behind her, so Bayley switched that and hit this amazing powerbomb on Nia. Once again, you gotta say fair play to that. And then totally forgot that Ripley had actually used these handcuffs to handcuff Raquel Rodriguez to the ring instead, which at one point looked like it was gonna screw her again, but finally, Ripley, like I say, charged her powers, and she started to whoop everybody's ass, and essentially she did turn the tables of Liv Morgan when they climbed to the top rope, and you've gotta see it. It is so well executed. She hit a riptide, an avalanche riptide, through the table. I think because Rhea is so big and Liv Morgan is not big, it honestly looked like she was dead. That totally ruled, and it was the 1-2-3, meaning that Team Rhea did get the win. So sure, if you want to describe this as a match of two halves, that's perfectly fine. But given that it was the second half when this really picked up, well, I thought I had a damn good time with it. And sure, there are things that you can pick at, should you so wish, and that is your prerogative. But if I'm entertained, and I have a good time, and I'm doing the dance of joy, and Rhea Ripley finally get hers over Liv Morgan, I am giving it now. It was Shinsuke Nakamura versus LA Knight for the US title after this. And I thought this was very interesting, because if nothing else, like we've already talked about, WarGames is always chaotic, so what were they going to do? It turned out they were going to surprise us. I think the WWE has already changed Shinsuke's entrance from SmackDown, and I foolishly said that I wasn't massively into that, but right now I'm happy to do a 180. I don't know what switcheroos they did make, but my gosh, this one worked for me, and I looked at Shinsuke Nakamura and I thought, you may be the coolest person I've ever said, which actually makes me a loser. He really did throw LA Knight around for a while, and even when Knight was able to boot him in the head and he pinned Shinsuke, Nakamura kicked out a 1. I was like, well, that's very interesting. I think I should keep my eye on it. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have been watching the TV. How the hell could I review that? LA Knight was then able to get his big elbow in, but Shinsuke came back with an elbow that was way worse. This is when Michael Cole was like, yeah, there's 2 rings, but these guys are only allowed to wrestle in one of them. I was like, why, man? If they're both there, let them go nuts. Around this point too, once again, I was looking at Nakamura going, you're just so cool. Maybe you're even cooler than Elvis. That's not topical. Let's go with Brad Pitt. Let's just move on. Now, LA was able to hit this amazing torture rack bomb, which was essentially a burning hammer. But here's the thing, he didn't get like a great amount of offense in that. So even though he was hitting these devastating moves, Shinsuke kept kicking out. That's when I started to think, he could actually win this. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't let myself believe. LA Knight was going for the BFT, but he started doing that stupid thing with his hands where he slaps them. So Shinsuke Nakamura knew what was coming, when essentially they fought between both of the rings with that steel beam. Nakamura took LA Knight's face and he smashed him into it. And the whole time the commentators also said, oh my gosh, I don't think LA Knight is mentally in this, because of course SmackDown, he had Black Mist smashed in his face. This was totally true too, because he was all wibbly wobbly in the ring when Shinsuke hit him with the Kinshasa to the back of the head, which is way worse than the front, and he pinned him for the 3. Now listen, I'm in a hotel room right now. Do you know what noise I made? I went wee, like some kind of goat giving birth. Probably gonna get kicked out later, so we better speed up. I just could not believe it though, because in many ways this happened too soon. We have talked about it time and time again, especially with Shinsuke Nakamura, the last time he turned heel. If you are going to switch up somebody's presentation to this degree, and they don't win, they look like an absolute goober. Like in the locker room, you could be like, dude, what was the point of that? It was a waste of time. And now, he is the US champion, even if he only holds it for a few weeks and LA Knight wins it back at Saturday Night's main event. This was such a wonderful shock, and it was such a wonderful surprise, and it was so nice to see Shinsuke Nakamura get something. You bet your ass I'm giving it an up. This is the wrestling. Amazingly too, we then cut to a close commercial after this, where Maxine Dupree and Tozawa were very worried because Otis wouldn't come out of his locker room. Eventually they said, don't worry, we have lovely garments for you to wear. So of course Otis did come out. He was half naked. I stared off into the distance after this and I was like, that's the strangest back-to-back segment I've ever seen in WWE. Welcome to 2024. We also moved right into our triple threat Intercontinental Title contest after this between Bron Breakker, Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. And if I could, if it wasn't awful for audience retention, I would just stand here and applaud for 5 minutes. In many ways, this was the best match of the night. I mean, Ludwig Kaiser just bailed to begin with because he is a dickhead, but that just meant Breakker and Sheamus could take lumps out of each other. And while Kaiser kept trying to get in there, he kept getting punched, and that was the story of the match. Anytime all three did come together, well, you can see it on social media right now. Hopefully we'll put the picture on the screen. That's a picture of Sheamus. I mean, I don't think he was painting himself with coloured crayons. Because Sheamus and Bron kept going at it too, eventually Ludwig did him these little punches, but that is when he set a chair up in the corner. Now, nothing happened with that at one point because they tried to throw him into it, but he did some Matrix slide. As it turned out, my gosh, it was going to pay dividends. People then fell out of the ring, but Ludwig Kaiser knew all about what Bron Breakker likes to do out there, so he hit him with a drop kick when he was able to bust Sheamus into Simba the Steel Steps. But I kid you not, when Ludwig turned around, Bron Breakker was back and he dove at him with this shoulder blade. You will not believe the height. You will not believe the power. If you came up to me and said, actually, Simon, you know that Bron Breakker is an alien from outer space, I would believe you more than you telling me that he was born of this earth. I mean, it really is a human cheat code. This is where Bron and Sheamus started hitting each other again. And you know that stupid chant we get, fight forever? I mean, it makes no sense. You wouldn't want that at all. Actually, when it comes to these two guys, I don't think I'd mind it at all. Now, obviously, the big story here, too, is that Sheamus has never won the Intercontinental title, and he's desperate to, which is when him and Ludwig were fighting on the outside, and Bron Breakker just dove off there, and he smashed them over and in the announce table. This is another reason why Bron is so good. At one point, the crowd was so behind Sheamus, he basically became a heel for 5 minutes, and instantly he was a babyface again. There's also this really great moment when Sheamus appeared from behind Barry Barricade and gave everybody the 10 beats, and you bet your ass that'll be memed for years. When he got into brawling with Bron again, which could be the name of a TV series, and once again, this is where I was like, all right, maybe the WarGames will have more story at the end of the show, but it ain't gonna be more hard-hitting than this. Sheamus also got Frankenstein, which is crazy all things considered. This is when Bron went for that spear, when he goes 75 miles an hour, the Irishman got out the way, meaning that chair we talked about earlier, Breakker hit it at full speed. He didn't stop at all. The man is unhinged. It also led to one of the best near falls you will have seen this year, because Sheamus hit the bro kick, and it looked like he was about to win. Just as the referee was going to hit the mat for the 3, Ludwig Kaiser pulled the official out of the ring. That is a wonderful, wonderful prick. He also smashed the absolute crap out of Sheamus with a shillelagh because he is Irish, and this therefore led to something else, because they then got back in the squared circle, and Sheamus went for a knee, but his whole body buckled when Ludwig Kaiser was able to hit him with a DDT. So this was just wrestling tennis. Breaker was then back, and he hit the greatest spear you've ever seen in your life, and I don't think I'm kidding. And given that took Ludwig out, the commentators then saying, oh my gosh, I think Sheamus's ribs have been totally killed because of those shillelagh attacks. When Bron Breakker hit another fantastic spear, I imagine all of Sheamus's bones did break. 1, 2, 3. All because of that damn Ludwig Kaiser. So this rules, and you've got to go watch it. It is 15 minutes of awesomeness. And of course, one day Sheamus is going to win the Intercontinental title. And I tell you, I will have water coming out of my seeing devices. So I'm absolutely giving it an up. Bron Breakker should probably hold that championship until 2049. When the World Heavyweight Championship was on the line, that's when once again I thought to myself, sometimes my brain does work, this is a very well structured show, because Gunther versus Damian Priest, yeah, I want to see it. Damian's entrance is spot on too and makes him feel like such a killer, although he was wearing this like belt that looked like it was blood drops. Don't get mad at me, I'm just reporting the news. Gunther is Gunther too, and I don't know what that means, but he is Gunther. But once again, we had a tail here, because Damian was all smiling, or like, haha, I've got the confidence, whereas Gunther, he looked visibly scared. Priest then stuck his knee in the ring general's face, which absolutely was going to tie into that, and he was murking Gunther to such a degree, at one point he smashed him right on the nose, when his shoulder went. Now at first I was like, oh, well that's a nice little point we can throw into the match, but no, my friends. Actually it turned out that Damian Priest was wounded, like a video game boss. He had this big like red welt that was flashing, and Gunther, who's probably been into video games since the NES, decided, oh my gosh, I can work on that, and he did. Do you know what the first thing he did was? He chopped it, because of course he did. Priest also got thrown into Barry Barricade when Gunther got instant revenge, because he took his knee and he stuck it in this wounded shoulder. I thought that was disgusting and mean. They then continued to slug it out, and if you can believe it, Damian actually got some offense in, but the problem now was he was so injured he couldn't get the force behind his pins. So, look at this, one-armed Jones over here. He then found himself in the sleeper, which was also not good, because Gunther has about 58,962 moves. But that's when he came up with a great idea. Why don't I put this Gunther idiot in a triangle, because then I can use my limbs that do work. He also couldn't hit the razor's edge because of his injuries, when Gunther just came back with this power bomb for the 1-2. I mean, he really is tremendous. I kid you not too. Damian Priest then hit a Frankensteiner, which may have been even more nuts than Bron Breakker's earlier, when he got the razor's edge, but once again, he wasn't able to make a proper pin because of his shoulders. Now I tell you, my dudes, it totally got me. This is when Gunther decided, well, I'm just going to put you in a Kimura, which will totally take your shoulder out. But when Damian Priest got to the ropes, these fans just cheered. I do believe that is mission success. So even though he was quite clearly going to lose, allowing Damian Priest to be this much of a badass really did help him, to the point he got hurt again and he fell to the outside, and he even said to the referee, give me a minute. As it turned out, they were famous last words, because do you know who has been spamming and playing Mario way too much recently? It is Finn Balor. He came to ringside, he went on Simba the Steel Steps, and he stomped on Damian Priest's bad shoulder. What a piece of shit. Now, Gunther was tremendous here because he is the honourable heel, so he took out Finn Balor instantly, but at the same time, he has been having confidence issues, so he's not going to look a gift horse in the match. So he hit the powerbomb and went right into the sleeper, and poor Damian Priest hadn't got his 8 hours. So his brain went night-night, and he lost, all because of that horrible Finn. At first I was a bit like, man, I don't want to go back to Finn Balor and Damian Priest because we've done it so much. But then I realised, actually, this makes Finn Balor a real human being. If you hate someone, you don't go, oh well, we had our one match that I lost, I'll just leave it. No, you want to get your ultimate revenge. And of course, Gunther can now get involved in this too, because he's going to be pissed at Balor. So while I thought about it, and because the match was damn good, you bet your ass is getting it up. And of course, what are we doing? Planting the seeds for the future. That's good wrestling. It meant it was down to the main event to hit a home run to prove this was a show worth your time. And it was indeed WarGames number 2, Bloodline 2.0 versus the OG Bloodline and CM Punk. And even saying those words, we are not in Kansas anymore, Toto. It really did feel massive as well, and Tama Tonga was going to be the first guy for the new Bloodline. And when CM Punk and Roman Reigns were out there, they were just looking at each other, well, I don't like you. And he was like, well, I don't like you either. I was like, well, no, I don't think you like either of them. We also made sure that Jey Uso came out last, which I thought was a tremendous story point, because there's no leader anymore, and Roman Reigns is not in charge. It also meant that it was going to be Jey versus Tama Tonga to kick things off. Now, this Tama decided he was going to climb around the WarGames cage, like once again, he'd been playing Super Mario World, and he thought he was in Bowser's Castle. Tama Tonga, I love you, but you're not. I think at this point too, we should really give some credit to Tama Tonga, because he has been tremendous ever since he has arrived in WWE, and Jey Uso has had about a year. That's why I like these matches so much. It's not just about the main eventers, everybody has their place. I really like the fact that at 1.2, Tama tried to pin Jey, because that's what you would do in real life, because it comes down to instincts. We did one of these in the women's matches too. I actually think it's thinking outside the box and it's smart. Bronson Reed was in next, and he went to get a weapon straight away. So I'm just going to give it another down, because I audibly groaned. If anything makes me do that in wrestling, I can't just ignore it. But I'm happy to report from this point on, everybody thankfully forgot about it. What I really did like though is that he did have some chairs, and Jey Uso got these and they threw him at Bronson Reed, but he just no-sold them. So that's another guy that's had a great 6 months. He just comes across like a monster. It also meant that Jey Uso was being killed, so Jimmy Uso could be the next guy to save his brother. And my gosh, was Jimbo on it this evening. He climbed to the top rope and did a corkscrew moonsault. That dude got some serious hype. Eventually, it looked like Tanga Loa was going to be sent to the ring, but Solo said no. Jacob Fatu, you had to go. So once again, just such a nice story beat, because at this juncture you could argue that the Bloodline 2.0 were losing. I really love the reaction as well, because everyone was like, oh no, not Jacob. And he got in there and he totally murked the Usos like they were nothing. So as I always tell you, every day you wake up, you should be trying to find someone that treats you how WWE treats Jacob Fatu. Roman then actually stopped CM Punk from leaving the shark cage and going to the ring. So I had mixed emotions about this, because like, well, one, why would you two want to hang out in a small space for any longer? But it also meant Sami Zayn was being added in. You know the deal with Sami. I ain't ever gonna get mad about that. Him and Reed also went at it for a while, and I was like, man, I'd take that feud. And even though he did get mugged off for a little bit, it was him and Jimmy that then got on top. And then they did their handshake. I don't care what you say, my friends. That is goofy wrestling for life. What are we doing? Tanga Loa then finally got the blessing from his tribal chief, and he introduced more tables into this, which I think was the 5th one of the night. But actually, given how they were going to tie in, I give it a pass. Thankfully, the clock then ran down, because I really wanted to see what was going to happen here. And yeah, Roman Reigns was like, it's my time, pal. When CM Punk was like, bro, I don't care about you. And he stuck his hand out, and he went to the ring instead. I don't think these two are going to be sending Christmas cards to each other. It also kind of looked like Punk wasn't going to get involved, because he looked around, but actually, he also went weapon crazy, but he revealed a toolbox. And this is another one that I'm happy to give a pass, because do you remember back in 2019 how much we hated this toolbox? Well, given what CM Punk and Drew McIntyre did in the Hell in a Cell a few months ago, I was like, you know what, it's fine. Solo Sikoa was then good to go, and he yelled at Roman Reigns before he got in the ring, and used the flipping cage door to brain everyone. So he's not a nice person. They could die. Now, it was actually really cool, because Solo Sikoa was calling all the plays, and one by one, they took everybody down, with Bronson Reed doing some tsunamis, and CM Punk was surrounded by all 5 of them, and even though he was throwing his fisticuffs, you can't do well 5-on-1, so he was taken down too. It meant that it was all set up for Roman when Solo, the best character in the world right now, locked the door. He was like, well, your ass ain't getting in here now. What are you gonna do? I had a mini breakdown. I was like, oh man, please don't be bolt cutters. I hate bolt cutters. Reigns had a much better idea. He too went all video game, and he turned in from Vega to Street Fighter 2, and he climbed up the thing, and he was knocking people down to the point he found himself on the turnbuckle, and he did a top rope crossbody. I was like, I'm sorry, if Roman is doing top rope crossbodies, we are in for a treat. He then went and made sure he gave the rest of the bloodline their med packs, but not CM Punk, who had to stand up by himself. And that's when he and Roman were going to get into a fight, when Paul Heyman ran down and was like, listen, I'm going to say all your nicknames and your catchphrases. You're better together, so you better start working together. It meant we then got the big old stare down between the good guys and the bad guys, and that always works. But when they got into it, Jacob Fatu and CM Punk were going at it, and Roman Reigns was going at it with Solo Sikoa. When Roman went to hit the spear, Solo moved out the way, meaning Roman speared Punk instead. So now CM can go give The Rock a call. they have something in common. Roman then got the spike on Reigns for a really good 1-2 when Jacob Fatu went to hit the moonsault on CM Punk, but I guess he was too erratic because he went right into the floor and he destroyed his leg. Now you have to imagine this was part of the match, because for the rest of it he was only at 95%. Roman Reigns then made sure to punch him in the penis, which was definitely going to take him out of it, but that meant he forgot about Bronson Reigns, who smashed Roman right in the back, and he put him on a table, and Bronson Reed, this giant man, started climbing to the top of the cage, and I was screaming, "Don't do this, man, it's not worth it, you've got kids." Maybe, I don't know, but whatever he does. It tied into what is arguably the best story point of the entire WarGames, because Bronson really did jump off there. And do you want to know why he didn't hit Roman Reigns? Because he was saved by none other than Repo Man. It wasn't Repo Man, it should have been Repo Man, but it was CM Punk. The table exploded too, and this was when the Usos took their Phoenix Downs and they actually hit the 1D onto Jacob Fatu. And when was the last time we saw it? This place went nuts. Jimmy Uso then continued to prove he may have been the MVP of the match, because he went to the top rope too, the top of the cage, and he did a splash from up there. I can't even remember who was on the damn wood, because I was so obsessed with what Jimbo was doing. And he got mad height on this. Somebody go and give him the Eulafala. This is when it was Sami Zayn who went and helped everybody up, which I thought was a very nice touch, and it meant we had turned the tables, ironically, because all the 5 good guys were only looking at one person. It was Solo Sikoa. It was time for him to get his. Now, he did try to take them out, not to dinner, but of course, he got hit with every single finisher under the sun, including CM Punk's GTS, which knocked him out when Roman came in for the spear. 1, 2, 3. So honestly, good grief, the layer of story here is ridiculous. The amount we can do after this is massive, and also WWE knew that too, because you jump back 12 months, CM Punk arrived after that WarGames, so we just teased and teased and teased that maybe someone like The Rock was going to pop their head in, but they did not. It did mean you had a lot of looks from Roman Reigns at CM Punk and CM Punk at Roman Reigns. When they got to the entrance when everyone did the ones, CM Punk was doing his go-to-sleep bit. Honestly, it gets me out of time, because out of context, they look crazy. It really was great stuff though, and if you're not planning on watching it, you have to change your mind, because again, just to draw a line under it, this is WWE at its best. It's totally nuts, it's sports entertainment, and there's so much story. Quite clearly we're heading to Roman Reigns versus CM Punk at some point, and quite clearly Paul Heyman has other alternatives, but yeah, bravo, brilliant, great show, getting it up. And I kind of just said it there, but I'll say it again, the show overall, the Survivor Series, does get an up. And there were some people going, the build hadn't been as good, or the card wasn't that great. I had a terrific time watching this. It went an hour earlier, and I think it clocked in at 3.5 hours. I think everybody hit a home run. Getting it up. Now, of course, please do leave me a comment below and let me know how wrong I am. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And look, you can go and click the video on the screen, which is SmackDown Ups and Downs, to hear how wrong I was apparently about Shinsuke Nakamura's theme. But most importantly, my friends, thank you for supporting me as always. You know I love you, Solo, and I love you too. And I'll be back next week. Flub me, Survivor Series was great.